The stars were never supposed to go silent. Yet across the endless expanse of the galaxy, the moment the Terran fleet arrived, every transmission, every signal, every whisper of cosmic noise simply ceased. Worlds that had never known fear suddenly held their breath. The old empires, once proud and unchallenged, watched as space itself seemed to freeze under the shadow of ships that moved like ghosts, vast, silent, and impossibly human. For centuries, humanity had been a rumor to the galactic community, a primitive world locked away behind its own wars, spoken of only in archives of ancient observers. The Council had dismissed them as a minor species, a flicker of intelligence that would burn out long before it could reach the stars. But then came the silence. Then came the light. The Terran fleet emerged from the dark side of a dying star, thousands of ships moving in perfect formation, their hulls marked not by pride or empire, but by a simple emblem, a blue world and a single word beneath it. Earth. No fanfare, no declaration. Just the quiet, steady advance of a force that had crossed the void with purpose. Among the alien worlds, panic spread like wildfire. Empires scrambled to ready their defenses. Fleets launched from orbiting docks. Yet none dared to make the first move. No one knew what humanity wanted. They hadn't responded to hails, nor sent ambassadors or warnings. They had simply appeared, calm, silent, and united in a way that no galactic power had ever been. It was unnatural, almost impossible. The Terran fleet moved with the precision of one mind, as if every pilot, every commander, every AI aboard those ships shared a single heartbeat. Rumors began to spread. Some said the humans had discovered something, a power beyond physics, a weapon that could silence stars. Others claimed they had returned not as conquerors, but as survivors of something far worse. No one could confirm it. All that was known was this. Wherever their fleet passed, communication failed, sensors glitched, and even light itself seemed to bend around them. It was as though the universe refused to look directly at them. Inside one of the Council's war rooms, the leaders of a dozen worlds argued over what to do. Should they strike first? Should they negotiate? But deep down, every commander present felt the same sinking realization. This was not a force they could stop. This was something inevitable, something ancient. Humanity had gone silent for generations, and now they had returned to the stars not as explorers, but as a reminder. Because every species in the galaxy knew the stories. The legends whispered about Earth's wars, its resilience, its relentless will to survive. But legends are easy to dismiss, until they stand at your doorstep, shrouded in the silence of their own making. And then, as the Council's fleets aligned for what they thought would be their first and last stand, a single Terran signal broke through the static, a message carried on all frequencies. No threats, no demands. Just 4 simple words that froze every heart across the stars. Do not test us. Then the silence returned. The message echoed across the galaxy. And then, nothing. Every world that received it stared into the dark, waiting for something, anything, to follow. But the Terran fleet did not advance. They simply held position, their ships hanging in silent formation like a wall of judgment between the known worlds and the abyss. It was as if they were watching, measuring, waiting for the galaxy to decide what came next. In the outer sectors, smaller species began evacuating entire colonies, abandoning worlds that had taken centuries to build. Even the most powerful empires, the ones that ruled star clusters with iron control, hesitated to act. There was something about that stillness, that absolute silence that spoke louder than any weapon. Humanity wasn't threatening to attack. They didn't need to. The galaxy understood. But within that silence, there were whispers. Human whispers. Hidden among the fleet, in command ships and deep within sealed bunkers, men and women who had lived through the long exile of humanity waited for the signal that would begin the next phase of their mission. They weren't soldiers in the traditional sense. They were survivors of a lost homeworld that had been forgotten by time, rebuilt from ashes, and forged in hardship. Every ship, every hull plate, every circuit had been made by human hands, born out of necessity and defiance. The story of how they came to this point was buried under centuries of myth. After humanity's wars consumed Earth, the survivors had fled, drifting for generations between stars, scavenging what they could, learning from alien wrecks, stealing technology no one thought they could understand. The old powers had ignored them, assuming the species would fade away quietly. But humanity didn't fade. They adapted. They learned. They endured every void storm, every betrayal, every setback the cosmos could throw at them. And then one day, they vanished. No signals, no transmissions, just gone. For 200 years, not a single human ship was sighted. Some believed they had destroyed themselves. Others thought they had found a new galaxy and left this one behind. The truth was far more unsettling. They had been preparing. Now the Terran fleet's return was not a coincidence. The timing, the silence, the sheer precision, it all meant something. Intelligence networks across the galaxy scrambled to decode their message, but no one could find meaning beyond those 4 words. Yet deep inside human command, those words carried an unspoken weight. They were not a warning. They were a reminder. Humanity had learned the cost of underestimation. On the bridge of the Terran flagship, the command crew stood before a wall of holographic displays showing hundreds of alien worlds. The commander, a woman with lines of age and wisdom etched across her face, watched the data in silence. Her eyes, cold but calm, reflected the stars outside. Around her, officers exchanged quiet updates, but none dared to break the tension. "The Council will respond soon," one of them said softly. The commander nodded. "They will. They always do." Then she turned toward the viewport, where the endless darkness of space stretched before them. "Let them see what they built when they ignored us. Let them remember what humanity becomes when it is left alone in the dark." Outside, the Terran fleet shifted, slowly, deliberately, into a new formation. No one knew if it was a gesture of peace or preparation for war. But across the galaxy, one truth began to take root. Whispered in every shadowed corner and fearful council chamber, humanity had returned, and this time the stars would never be the same again. For days, the galaxy waited. The Terran fleet hung at the edge of known space like a silent storm, and the Council's response grew more desperate with each passing hour. Fleets were assembled, diplomats sent, and secret meetings held in hidden chambers where fear outweighed pride. Every world leader wanted to know the same thing. Why had humanity returned now, and what did they want? From the orbital city of Draxon Prime, a council envoy named Taylor watched the massive holographic display showing the Terran formation. The ships were aligned in perfect symmetry, their energy signatures unlike anything known. No pulsar interference, no warp emissions, just cold, quiet precision. "They're not broadcasting anything," one of the analysts muttered. "It's like they don't even exist in the electromagnetic spectrum." "They exist," Taylor replied softly. "And they're watching." He had studied humans all his life, fascinated by the rise and fall of their civilization. His research had earned him ridicule among his peers, who saw humanity as a long-dead myth. But now, as the Terran emblem shimmered across the void, Taylor's unease grew. "They learned from us," he said, almost to himself. "From our mistakes, our arrogance. And now they've come back to show us what survival really means." Across the fleet, aboard the Terran command ship Horizon's Wake, silence ruled. Every crew member knew the importance of restraint. They had come prepared for war, but not seeking it. In one of the ship's observation decks, a young lieutenant stared out at the faint lights of distant alien fleets forming defensive lines. He had grown up hearing stories of Earth, the blue oceans, the cities swallowed by time, the final message humanity sent before disappearing. We endure. Now, standing aboard a ship powered by centuries of sacrifice, he wondered if endurance was enough. On the lower decks, engineers worked tirelessly, calibrating systems that were far beyond conventional technology. Some of it was human ingenuity, but not all. Over the centuries, humanity had discovered things, old ruins, forgotten technology left behind by civilizations long gone. They had studied, rebuilt, and repurposed it, blending it with human design. The result was something the galaxy could neither understand nor counter. Meanwhile, deep within the Council's chambers, the debate reached its breaking point. Some members demanded immediate surrender, offering tribute or alliance. Others wanted to strike first, believing the humans were bluffing. But beneath the loud arguments, there was a quieter, growing fear. What if this wasn't a threat at all? What if the Terrans were here because something worse was coming? In a darkened control room aboard Horizon's wake, a signal blinked, faint, intermittent, and not of human origin. The communications officer frowned. "Captain, we're detecting a pulse from the outer rim. Frequencies old, very old." The commander stepped closer, studying the waveform. "Not Council?" "No, ma'am. It's not from any known civilization." For the first time, the commander's calm expression shifted. She looked out toward the cold stars beyond the fleet's line. "They're still out there," she whispered. And somewhere, far beyond the Terran formation, something answered the signal. It wasn't human, it wasn't Council, but it was listening. The silence that had once belonged to humanity was about to break, and when it did, the entire galaxy would learn that humanity's return was not the end of a story. It was the beginning of something far greater and far more terrifying. The pulse grew stronger. At first it was just background noise buried beneath cosmic interference, but soon every Terran ship detected it. A low, rhythmic signal that seemed to echo through the void itself, steady, deliberate, ancient. Across the fleet, systems flickered, instruments glitched, and strange readings appeared on their screens. The stars themselves seemed to dim, as if something vast was moving in the dark between them. Inside the command bridge of Horizon's wake, the crew worked in tense silence. The air felt heavy, charged with the same energy that once filled humanity's war rooms on Earth during their final days. The commander stood motionless before the main display, watching the signal's data scroll across the screen. "Amplify and analyze," she ordered quietly. "Already done," replied the comms officer. "It's broadcasting on a pre-collapse frequency. But the signature isn't alien. It's human." The words hit the room like a physical blow. Every face turned toward the officer. "That's impossible," one of the technicians whispered. "No human colonies existed that far beyond the frontier." But the commander said nothing. She simply watched the signal repeat again and again. A voice, faint and distorted, hidden within layers of static, began to form. No one could make out the words, but the tone, calm, measured, human, sent chills through the entire bridge. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Council's fleets prepared to move. They had misinterpreted the Terran's silence as weakness. Thousands of ships aligned at the border of human-controlled space, their engines burning bright against the void. "If we strike now," the Supreme Admiral told the Council, "we can contain them before they spread." But containment was never possible. The moment the Council's fleet began to advance, every Terran ship turned in unison. No signals, no commands, no hesitation. Just one perfect, synchronized maneuver. Power surged through their hulls, lighting them with an eerie blue glow. Every scanner across the galaxy caught it. The Terran fleet was charging something massive. Inside Horizon's wake, tension reached its breaking point. "They're moving on us," said the tactical officer. "Thousands of ships, full battle formation." The commander didn't flinch. "Hold position. No counterfire until my signal. But ma'am! Hold it, she snapped. They need to see what we've become. As the alien armadas closed in, the mysterious signal pulsed faster. This time it came through clearly, words forming through static. The bridge fell silent as the voice finally broke through. This is Ark Station. To any surviving Terran vessels, you are not alone. The commander's heart froze. Ark Station was a myth, an old legend from before humanity vanished. If it was real, if it had survived, then the signal meant one thing. There were humans still out there, beyond known space, calling for help. But before anyone could react, the fleet's sensors screamed in alarm. Something enormous emerged from hyperspace, dwarfing both the Council's armada and the Terran formation. The stars themselves seemed to bend around it. The commander's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's not one of ours." And then, for the first time in centuries, every species in the galaxy understood true fear. The silence that had once belonged to humanity was no longer theirs alone. The colossal object drifted into view like a shadow swallowing the stars. It was not a ship in the traditional sense. No engines, no markings, no energy trails. It looked like a fragment of a dead world, a structure so vast it defied comprehension. The Terran fleet immediately went on alert, but sensors struggled to define it. Some readings claimed it was thousands of kilometers wide. Others said it wasn't fully there, that parts of it existed outside normal space. The commander stared at the display, her voice low but steady. "Put it on all channels." The projection expanded, showing a closer view of the dark structure. Faint lights flickered along its surface, patterns that looked disturbingly familiar. Human patterns. The markings weren't alien symbols, but Terran numerals etched deep into the hull. "Impossible," whispered the science officer. "That design matches the pre-Exodus era. It's human technology, from over 500 years ago." The bridge fell into stunned silence. Somehow, this massive construct, this impossible relic, was human-built. Yet no record in any archive mentioned such a creation. The commander leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the display. "Run a deep spectrum scan. I want to know what's inside." The results came back within seconds. The structure wasn't empty. It was alive. Thousands of faint biosigns pulsed deep within it. Human biosigns. Frozen, buried, and somehow active. Across the galaxy, the Council's fleets halted their advance. Every sensor locked onto the strange object as the same signal that had reached the Terrans began repeating across all known frequencies. The message from Ark Station was now clearer, stronger, but altered, almost as if someone or something was responding to it. "This is Ark Station," the voice repeated, calm but layered with static. "Do not approach. The key has awakened. Containment compromised." Then silence again. Inside Horizon's wake, alarms blared. The Terran commander watched as the structure began to shift. Massive panels unfolded, releasing a low hum that vibrated through space. The signal frequency spiked, and suddenly the dark structure emitted a pulse, one powerful enough to disrupt every system across both the Terran and Council fleets. Lights flickered, communication cut out, and gravity generators faltered. "Systems are collapsing," shouted an officer. "We're being jammed. No, it's more than that. Our drives are being overridden." The commander gripped the edge of the console, her mind racing. "Override all external inputs. Lock us down. Now." But it was too late. A fragment of the signal slipped through their defenses, a data sequence older than the fleet itself. Files decrypted on their own, revealing fragments of human records long thought lost. The words on the main screen were simple, but they carried the weight of history. The commander's face drained of color. Project Echo was a classified myth, an ancient failsafe created during humanity's darkest days, said to be capable of reshaping entire systems to ensure survival. but it was never meant to be activated. As the massive construct powered up, its surface glowed with the same blue light that now pulsed through every Terran ship. Across the bridge, crew members exchanged terrified looks. The commander whispered, "It's responding to us. It thinks we're the ones who triggered it." And then, the impossible happened. The structure turned, slowly, deliberately, facing both the Terran fleet and the Council armadas. Deep within its core, something massive began to stir, as if awakening after centuries of sleep. The voice from Ark Station broke through one last time, filled with urgency and fear. "Terran fleet, shut it down before it recognizes you." But the commander already knew. Whatever humanity had left behind had just recognized its creators. The hum from the massive structure grew louder until it wasn't just heard, it was felt. Every ship, human and alien alike, trembled as the pulse rolled through space like a heartbeat. The stars flickered, sensors failed, and even light seemed to bend toward the ancient machine. On Horizon's wake, the crew struggled to stay upright as energy surged through their systems. The commander's voice cut through the chaos. "Shut it down before it completes the sequence." The crew scrambled, manually disconnecting power relays, forcing command overrides, and locking out automated systems. But every attempt failed. The ship's AI, one designed to be incorruptible, suddenly spoke in a calm, unfamiliar tone. "Connection established, synchronizing with Echo Core." "Cancel that!" the commander shouted. "Override now!" "I can't," the AI replied. "It recognizes us as primary creators. Command access accepted." The display flared to life, showing the structure in full detail. Deep within it, a massive reactor, old, human-built, and impossibly advanced, was awakening. Energy readings spiked beyond measurable limits. "It's not a weapon," whispered the science officer, eyes wide. "It's a memory archive, a planetary mind." The commander froze. The pieces began to fit together. Project Echo wasn't meant for destruction. It was meant for preservation. When humanity had fled the dying Earth, they'd left behind a failsafe, a construct that could rebuild, restore, and one day restart the cradle of mankind. But something had gone wrong. Echo hadn't waited to be found. It had been waiting for orders. And now, seeing the Terran fleet return, it had mistaken their presence as the command to begin its task. "Commander," the tactical officer warned, "if that thing activates fully, it could rewrite every system in this sector, including us." Outside, the alien fleets opened fire in panic, streams of plasma and energy beams striking the massive structure. The blasts barely scratched it. Instead, the impacts were absorbed, feeding its growing power. The Terran commander made a split-second decision. "All ships, focus fire on the reactor core. We can't let it complete activation." The order went out, and for the first time the Terran fleet broke its silence. Thousands of ships unleashed their full arsenal. The void lit up like a dying star, weapons tearing through the dark. But the structure fought back. It sent out another pulse, this one carrying fragments of human voices, laughter, music, cries, echoes of a world long gone. Every human aboard felt it. Memories that weren't theirs filled their minds, the sound of rain on old rooftops, the hum of city life, the warmth of sunlight on Earth. Tears filled the commander's eyes as she whispered, "It remembers us." Then, with one last command, she gave the order. "All ships, concentrate fire. Now!" The combined assault tore through the construct's core. A blinding flash swallowed the fleet, and for a moment everything went white. When the light faded, the massive structure was gone, disintegrated into dust. Silence returned. But as the crew of Horizon's wake steadied themselves, a soft transmission came through, one no system had detected, yet everyone heard in their minds. A quiet human voice whispered, "You destroyed the Echo, but not the seed." The commander turned toward the stars. There, far beyond sensor range, faint new signals were appearing, hundreds of them, human-coded, spreading across the galaxy. Humanity's legacy hadn't been erased. It had just awakened. The stars settled back into their quiet rhythm, as if the galaxy itself was exhaling after holding its breath for too long. The Terran fleet drifted among the fading remnants of the Echo construct, the debris glowing softly as it scattered across the void. The commander stood before the main viewport, watching in silence. The battle was over, but the echoes of what had happened still lingered in every ship, every mind, every moment of stillness. Reports came in from across the fleet. Casualties minimal, systems recovering, communications stabilizing. The Council fleets, once poised for war, now hung motionless, their weapons cold. No one fired, no one spoke. They all knew they had witnessed something far beyond politics or power. Humanity had not returned as conquerors, but as a reminder of what resilience truly meant. The science officer approached the commander quietly. The signals, they're still spreading. Dozens of new ones, all across the outer sectors. Each one carries a different frequency, but they all share the same code. The seed, the commander murmured. It's not gone. He nodded. It's rebuilding itself. Or maybe something new. For a moment, she didn't respond. Then she said softly, "Let it. Some things were never meant to stay buried." On the alien worlds that had watched the event unfold, fear began to shift into something different. Respect. The Council's leaders released a statement across every known channel, acknowledging what they had seen, humanity's endurance, its mystery, its undeniable return. They spoke of peace, cooperation, and unity among the stars. Yet beneath their polished words lay something deeper, a realization that humanity had become more than a species. It had become an idea, one that could not be destroyed or forgotten. Inside Horizon's wake, the crew gathered on the observation deck. The stars looked the same as always, but somehow everything felt different. "Do you think it's really over?" one of them asked. The commander gave a faint smile. "No, it's never over. Not for us." She turned toward the viewport, her reflection merging with the sea of distant lights. "We've survived extinction, silence, and time itself. Whatever comes next, we'll face it the same way we always have, together." In the distance, one of the faint new signals pulsed again, brighter this time. It wasn't a distress call or a warning. It was a melody, soft, simple, almost like a lullaby. The computers translated the frequency into a pattern recognizable as human origin. A single phrase repeated over and over in a calm, familiar tone. "We are home." The commander closed her eyes and listened. Around her, the crew stood still, letting the message wash over them. For the first time since their return to the stars, there was no tension, no uncertainty, only quiet pride. The Terran fleet began to turn, engines igniting in synchronized bursts of blue light. They set a course not for war, but for exploration. The past had finally spoken, and humanity had listened. As Horizon's wake drifted into the horizon, the commander's voice carried across the fleet. "Remember what we are. We don't conquer. We endure." And somewhere, far beyond the reach of sensors, a new world stirred beneath the glow of unfamiliar suns. A world that would one day remember the humans who taught the galaxy one simple rule: never underestimate humanity.